The chamber was enormous. It floated in space between 3 star systems, built by the oldest races in the galaxy. Inside, representatives from 200 different worlds sat in a circular arrangement. Each species had their own seat, their own translator, their own voting panel. This was the Galactic Council, and today they had gathered for an emergency meeting. Ambassador Sarah Chun sat in the human section. She was a small woman with gray hair and tired eyes. Behind her stood 2 guards in simple blue uniforms. The human delegation looked plain compared to the others. The Xanthari had glowing crystals growing from their heads. The Morthine floated in tanks of purple liquid. The Klaxons were 12 feet tall with 6 arms each. Humans looked boring next to them. Sarah watched as the council speaker called the meeting to order. The speaker was a Yulton, an ancient race that looked like walking trees. His voice rumbled through the chamber. We gather today to address the dispute over the Kepler 442 system, the speaker announced. On the large screen above them, an image appeared. It showed a yellow star with 7 planets. The 3rd planet was green and blue, covered in oceans and forests. Orbiting it was a human colony ship called the Endeavor. 20,000 humans lived on that ship, while they built settlements on the planet below. The Vraxian Empire has brought a formal complaint. The speaker continued. The Vraxian section erupted in movement. War Master Krength stood up. He was massive, nearly 8 feet tall, with dark red skin and 4 eyes. His species had ruled 30 systems for 10,000 years. They had the strongest military in known space. Every species feared them. This is not a complaint. Krength's voice boomed across the chamber. This is a warning. That system belongs to the Vraxian Empire. It was discovered by our ancestors 5,000 years ago. These humans have violated our territorial rights. Sarah stood up slowly. The system was uninhabited. We followed all protocols. We checked the registry. There were no Vraxian settlements, no stations, no markers. Just an old claim from thousands of years ago. Krength slammed his massive fist on his desk. The sound echoed like thunder. Old claim? My people shed blood for that system. We fought the Horthax there. Thousands of Vraxian warriors died defending it. And now you soft mammals think you can simply take it because you found it empty? The council murmured. Many species shifted uncomfortably. They had all dealt with the Vraxians before. It never went well to argue with them. Sarah remained calm. We are willing to negotiate. Perhaps shared access to the system? Or compensation for relocation? We have 20,000 people who have already started building homes. Negotiate? Krength laughed. It was a harsh, cruel sound. Humans, you have been in space for what? 200 years? We have been conquering the stars since before your species learned to make fire. There is no negotiation. There is only our command and your obedience. He turned to face the entire council. I give the humans 72 hours. Remove every person, every ship, every piece of equipment from the Kepler 442 system. If even one human remains after that time, the Vraxian Empire will respond with total eradication. The chamber went silent. Total eradication. Those words meant something specific in galactic law. It meant the complete destruction of all human presence in a system. Ships, stations, satellites, everything. And everyone. Sarah felt her heart pound, but she kept her face neutral. War Master Krength, surely you don't mean to threaten 20,000 civilian lives over a territorial dispute. I mean exactly what I say, Krength replied. 72 hours. Then we demonstrate what happens to species who take what belongs to the Vraxian Empire. Let this be a lesson to everyone watching. The speaker tried to intervene. Perhaps we should discuss sanctions or mediation, or The Vraxian Empire does not require the Council's permission to defend its territory, Krenth interrupted. We are merely informing you as a courtesy. 72 hours. A countdown begins now. Sarah looked around the chamber. Not a single species spoke up in support of humanity. Some looked sympathetic. Most looked away. A few even seemed satisfied. Humans were newcomers to the galactic community. They had no powerful allies, no ancient treaties, no military reputation. I request the full 72 hours to consult with Earth, Sarah said quietly. Krenth smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. Of course. Take your time. Beg your leaders for help. Cry about the unfairness. It changes nothing. In 3 days, the Vraxian fleet will arrive at Kepler 442. If you are still there, you will die. All of you. He sat down, looking pleased with himself. Other Vraxians in their delegation made sounds that resembled laughter. The speaker looked at Sarah with something like pity. Ambassador Chun, the Council will reconvene in 72 hours to observe the human response. Is there anything else you wish to say? Sarah stood very still for a moment. Then she spoke clearly, making sure every translator in the chamber caught her words. Yes, I want to make sure I understand War Master Krenth correctly. You are threatening the total eradication of human presence in the Kepler 442 system. 20,000 civilians. Men, women, and children. Complete destruction if we do not leave our legal settlement. Is that accurate? Krenth leaned forward. Perfectly accurate. And when we are done with Kepler 442, perhaps we will visit your other colonies. Perhaps even Earth itself. You mammals need to learn your place in this galaxy. Sarah nodded slowly. Thank you for clarifying. I will relay your threat to Earth immediately. We will provide our response in 72 hours. She gathered her documents and turned to leave. As she walked toward the exit, she could hear various council members whispering. Some were already discussing how to divide up human territory after the Vraxians destroyed them. Others were placing bets on how quickly humans would evacuate. Sarah reached the door and paused. Without turning around, she spoke one more time. For the record, I want the Council to note that the Vraxian Empire has threatened humanity with extinction. I want this moment recorded and broadcast to every member world. I want everyone to remember what was said here today. The speaker nodded. So noted, Ambassador Chun. The session is being broadcast live to all Council worlds as per standard procedure. Good, Sarah said softly. That's very good. She left the chamber. Her guards followed. As the door closed behind them, Sarah pulled out her communication device. She sent a single encrypted message to Earth. It contained only 2 words. Protocol Scorpion, back on Earth. In a bunker deep beneath Geneva, alarms began to sound. Military commanders received the message simultaneously. Within minutes, the entire defense network activated. Orders went out to every human ship, every colony, every military installation. Humanity had 72 hours to prepare, and they were going to use every single second. Council. Observer Station Gamma 7 was having a busy day. The station's job was to monitor important situations across the galaxy. Right now, every screen was focused on human activity. What the observers were seeing made no sense. They're not evacuating, said Observer Thelman, a 4-armed Quellan who had worked the station for 20 years. I don't understand. Why aren't they running? His supervisor, a Yolton named Gardeth, stared at the displays. Increase monitoring. The Council will want detailed reports. 12 hours had passed since the ultimatum. By now, every human ship near Kepler 442 should have been fleeing towards safer space. Instead, something else was happening. Something the Council had never seen before. Human ships were coming, not just a few ships. Hundreds of them. Every civilian vessel within 3-star systems had changed course and was heading directly toward Kepler to 442, merchant ships that carried grain, colony transports designed for peaceful travel, even small pleasure craft that families used for vacations. All of them were moving toward the threatened system. What are they doing? Thelman zoomed in on one of the merchant vessels. That ship carries farming equipment. It has no weapons. Why would they send it into a war zone? Gareth pulled up the communication channels. Human transmissions filled the airways. He listened through his translator. This is Captain Rodriguez of the merchant vessel, Prairie Wind. We're 12 hours out from Kepler 442. All weapon systems are online and functional, ready to join the defensive fleet. Another voice cut in. This is the passenger liner Ocean Star. We've completed the retrofit. Military-grade railguns mounted on all 6 sides. Our civilians have been trained on the weapons. We're ready. The cargo hauler mountain giant here. We've got missile pods installed. Our crew of 40 just became a crew of 40 fighters. Nobody threatens our people. Thelman felt a chill run down his spine. They're arming civilian ships. That's against the Peaceful Traverse Treaty. Gareth made a note. The treaty only applies during peacetime. The Vraxians declared intent to eradicate. That changes everything. More data flowed in. Council observers across the galaxy reported the same thing. Every human facility was working at maximum capacity. Space stations that usually built satellites were now producing weapons. Colony fabricators that printed tools were making ammunition. Science vessels were running battle simulations. But that wasn't the strangest part. On Earth itself, something unprecedented was happening. The Council had access to human public networks. Every observer station was watching the numbers climb. A vote. A simple referendum put to every human on Earth. 8 billion people, all asked the same question. Do you authorize unlimited military response to the Vraxian threat? The votes were coming in real time. Observers watched the numbers scroll across their screens. Yes, 94.2%. No, 5.8%. 8 billion people, Thelman whispered. And almost all of them voted for war. I've never seen a species so united. Gareth pulled up more data. Look at this. Human social networks. There's a phrase repeating everywhere. It translates to never again. The phrase appeared billions of times. Humans were posting it with images. Historical images. Thelman saw pictures of destroyed cities, mass graves, and monuments to terrible events. His translator provided context. These were from human history. Times when humans had tried to destroy other humans. They're remembering their own genocides, Gareth said quietly. They're treating this Vraxian threat like their own historical nightmares. 24 hours into the countdown, something new appeared on the sensors. Military recruitment centers on Earth were overwhelmed, but not with young soldiers. Old humans were coming back. Council observers watched footage from a recruitment center in North America. An old human man walked in. His hair was white, his face covered in wrinkles. The translator picked up his words. I'm 87 years old. I fought in the Mars Rebellion 60 years ago. I can still shoot. Sign me up. The recruiting officer tried to explain that he was too old. The man slammed his fist on the desk. My granddaughter is on the Endeavor. If the Vraxians want to kill her, they'll have to go through me first. I didn't survive 3 wars to watch my family die because some alien bully made threats. Now give me a uniform or get out of my way. Similar scenes played out across Earth. Humans in their 70s, 80s, even 90s were demanding to fight. Some could barely walk, but they wanted weapons. They wanted to protect their species. Thelman felt uncomfortable. This isn't normal behavior. Most species negotiate when threatened by superior force. Gardiff was reading a report. I'm looking at the analysis from the xenopsychology department. They say humans have something they call collective memory. When their entire species is threatened, they remember every threat their ancestors faced. And they remember how they survived. At the 36-hour mark, Ambassador Chun sent a transmission to the Council. It wasn't a plea for help. It wasn't a surrender. It was information. She provided detailed files on the Vraxian Empire. Every treaty violation they had committed. Every species they had bullied. Every time they had threatened extinction, but the Council had looked away. The information went to every member world, broadcast on public channels. The Council has allowed the Vraxians to make threats for centuries. Chun's voice was calm but firm. You've stayed silent because it was easier than confronting them. But silence enables evil. And humanity will not be another species that disappears because the Council was too afraid to act. The reaction was immediate. On dozens of worlds, citizens began protesting. They demanded their representatives support humanity. They wanted the Council to stop the Vraxians. But the Council remained silent. They were too afraid. At 48 hours, Earth's orbital shipyards revealed something new. Massive construction projects that had been completed in secret. 12 huge vessels unlike anything humans had built before. Observer Thilman enhanced the image. What are those? Gardiff ran the scans. They're battleships. But the design, it's not like their other ships. These are built for one purpose only: destruction. Each ship was 3 kilometers long. They bristled with weapons. Railguns, missile batteries, energy cannons, and weapons the Council didn't recognize. And each ship had a name painted on its hull in letters 10 meters. Tall, Srebrenica, Rwanda, Holocaust, Nanjing, Holodomor, Armenian, Wounded, Ni, Nanking, Kaitan, Cambodian, Bangladesh, Circassian. What do these names mean? Thelman asked. Gardiff searched the human historical database. His face went pale. They're genocides. Mass killings from human history. Events where humans tried to eradicate other humans. Why would they name warships after their own atrocities? A reminder, Gardiff said slowly. They're telling the galaxy that they know what extinction looks like. They've done it to themselves. And they survived by learning from it. At 60 hours, the Vraxian fleet began to gather. 3,000 warships, the largest battle fleet in the galaxy. They positioned themselves for the jump to Kepler 442. War Master Krenth broadcast a message. Humans, your time is almost up. We have detected your pitiful preparations. Your civilian ships with their makeshift weapons. Your 12 new battleships. You think this will stop the Vraxian Empire? We have crushed species with 10 times your military strength. Surrender now or face total annihilation. Ambassador Chun's response came within minutes. She appeared on every council screen. Her face was calm, almost serene. War Master Krenth, you threatened to eradicate us. We took that seriously. In 72 hours, you will see why that was a mistake. You gave us time to prepare. We used every second, and we want the Council to watch. We want every species in the galaxy to witness what happens when you threaten humanity with extinction. She paused, then spoke words that would be remembered forever. You thought we would beg. You thought we would run. You don't understand humans. We are the species that survived ice ages, plagues, and world wars. We survived by learning one simple truth. If someone threatens to eradicate you, you eliminate the threat completely. A transmission ended. The council chamber erupted in confused murmurs. What did she mean? At 72 hours exactly, both fleets arrived at Kepler 442, The Vraxian fleet numbered 3,000 warships. The human fleet had gathered over 2,000 vessels of all types. On paper, the Vraxians had the advantage. Better weapons, better armor, more experience. The Council broadcast the confrontation live to all member worlds. Billions of beings across the galaxy watched their screens. This would be the moment humanity either fled or died. War Master Krenth opened communications. Humans, this is your last chance. Flee now or be destroyed. Ambassador Chun appeared on screen one final time. Behind her, the command center of the Endeavor was visible. Humans worked calmly at their stations. We gave you 72 hours to reconsider your threat. You refused. So now, the galaxy will learn why you never threatened humans with extinction. She nodded to someone off-screen, and the battle began. The first 3 minutes looked like a normal space battle. The Vraxian fleet advanced in their traditional formation. 3,000 warships moving as one. A wall of firepower that had crushed countless enemies. They activated their shields and powered up their weapons. The human fleet spread out. Their formation looked chaotic, disorganized. Council military experts watching the broadcast shook their heads. Humans didn't understand proper fleet tactics. This would be over quickly. War Master Krenth commanded from his flagship, the Blood of Conquest. All ships advance. Target the civilian vessels first. Show them the price of defiance. The Vraxian fleet opened fire. Massive energy beams and missiles streaked across space toward the human ships. It should have been devastating. Then the human ships moved. They didn't dodge in predictable patterns. They moved in ways that seemed random, chaotic, impossible to target. Ships spun and weaved. Some flew straight at incoming missiles, then jerked aside at the last microsecond. Others seemed to know exactly where the Vraxian weapons would fire before they fired. How are they doing that? Demanded a Quellan admiral, watching from the Council observation deck. A human technical advisor answered. Predictive combat AI, we taught our computers every battle the Vraxians ever fought. Every pattern, every tactic. Our AI knows what they'll do before they do it. The Vraxian first volley, which should have destroyed hundreds of human ships, only managed to hit 47. And those ships had already evacuated their crews to other vessels in the fleet. Krenth roared in anger. Concentrate fire. Destroy those 12 battleships. The Vraxian fleet focused on the 12 massive human warships. Thousands of weapons targeted them simultaneously. Enough firepower to shatter a small moon. The 12 battleships didn't dodge. They didn't raise shields. They simply sat there as the weapons' fire approached. Then, 1 second before impact, they disappeared. What? Krenth stared at his displays. Where did they go? The 12 battleships reappeared behind the Vraxian fleet. Point-blank range. That's impossible, said the Quellan admiral. Tactical jumps that precise? No species has that technology. The human advisor smiled grimly. We do now. We've been working on it for 50 years. Your safety regulations said it was too dangerous to test. We don't have safety regulations during war. The 12 battleships opened fire. What came out of their weapons wasn't normal. The Council had rules about warfare. Certain weapons were banned because they were too cruel, too destructive. Humans didn't care about those rules anymore. The battleship Holocaust fired first. Clouds of microscopic machines erupted from its weapons. Nanits, billions of them. They swarmed over the nearest Vraxian ships and began taking them apart, molecule by molecule. Vraxian warriors screamed as their ships dissolved around them. The battleship Rwanda launched biological weapons. Engineered viruses designed specifically for Vraxian DNA. The missiles penetrated Vraxian shields and released their payloads. Within seconds, Vraxian crew members began dying. Their own biology turned against them. The battleship Nanjing used something worse. Quantum disruptors. Weapons that didn't just destroy matter, but unraveled it at the atomic level. Vraxian ships didn't explode. They simply ceased to exist, leaving nothing behind. Council observers watched in horror. They're using banned weapons. All of them. Everything prohibited by the Galactic Warfare Convention. Ambassador Chun's voice came through on all channels. The Vraxians threatened us with total eradication. They wanted to kill 20,000 civilians, including children. You expected us to fight fair? War Master Krenth tried to reorganize his fleet. All ships fall back. Regroup at... He never finished the order. The civilian vessels that the Vraxians had dismissed as harmless attacked. They didn't have powerful weapons, but they had something else. Determination. A merchant ship rammed directly into a Vraxian cruiser at full speed. The impact destroyed both vessels. The merchant crew had evacuated seconds before impact, teleporting to rescue ships. The Vraxian crew had no such escape. A passenger liner flew into the middle of a Vraxian formation and detonated its reactor core. The explosion took out 6 warships. A small pleasure yacht, the kind families used for weekend trips, crashed into a Vraxian dreadnought's bridge. The yacht's AI pilot had aimed perfectly. They're sacrificing their own ships, gasped a council observer. Using them as weapons. The human advisor nodded. Those ships were already damaged. We salvaged the crews and turned the vessels into kinetic weapons. In human history, we called these kamikaze tactics. We learned them 800 years ago. A battle became chaos. The Vraxian fleet, used to organized warfare, couldn't handle the human approach. Humans didn't follow rules. They attacked from every direction. They used psychological warfare, broadcasting the screams of dying Vraxians to shake the morale of other ships. Worse, humans targeted specific ships with specific weapons. They had studied Vraxian psychology. They knew which clans hated each other, which commanders had feuds, which crews were loyal or rebellious. They sowed confusion and fear. The War Master's clan killed my brothers. One Vraxian captain broadcast. Why should I die for him? The humans offered us surrender terms. Another Vraxian officer transmitted. They said they'll spare ships that power down weapons now. Krenth tried to maintain discipline, but the human psychological attacks were working. His fleet was falling apart. Then the 12 battleships began broadcasting. Each one played audio and video. Not of the current battle, but of human history. Holocaust showed images of gas chambers and death camps where humans had murdered millions of other humans. Rwanda showed footage of machete massacres where neighbors killed. Neighbors. The Nanjing showed the horrors humans had inflicted on other humans in ancient wars. And over all of it, a message repeated in every language. This is what we did to ourselves. Imagine what we'll do to you. It was psychological warfare on a scale the galaxy had never seen. The Vraxians were warriors, proud and fierce. But they had never fought an enemy that weaponized its own history of atrocities. Vraxian ships began to flee. First a few, then dozens, then hundreds. The proud Vraxian fleet was breaking. Stop! Krenth screamed. Cowards! We are Vraxians. We don't run from soft mammals. But his warriors were watching their comrades die in ways they had never imagined. Dissolved by nanites. Killed by diseases. Erased from existence. The humans were fighting with a brutality that shocked even the Vraxins. At the 14-minute mark. Krenth realized he was losing. Half his fleet was destroyed or fleeing. The humans had lost maybe 300 vessels, and they were still fighting with the same intensity as when the battle started. Cease fire. Krenth transmitted on all channels. We surrender. In the name of the Vraxian Empire, we surrender. The human ships didn't stop. Missiles continued to fly. Rail guns kept firing. Nanite swarms consumed more Vraxian vessels. The biological weapons spread through the remaining fleet. We surrender. Krenth screamed again. Stop firing. We yield. Ambassador Chun's face appeared on every screen. She looked directly at Krenth. No. That single word echoed across the galaxy. Billions of beings watching the broadcast gasped. You threatened total eradication, Chun said calmly. You said you would kill every human in this system. Men, women, children. All of them. And the council said nothing. They just watched. Now you'll all watch this. The human fleet pressed the attack. More Vraxian ships exploded, dissolved, or simply vanished. The council speaker tried to intervene. Ambassador Chun, they have surrendered. The Galactic Warfare Convention requires you to accept surrender. The convention also prohibits threats of genocide, Sean replied. The Vraxians violated it first. We're simply responding in kind. At the 17-minute mark, the last Vraxian warship in the system was destroyed. 3,000 ships had come to Kepler 442. 0 remained functional. Krenth's flagship, the Blood of Conquest, was heavily damaged but still intact. Human ships surrounded it, weapons trained on every vulnerable point. Shun opened a direct channel to Krenth. War Master, your fleet is gone. You have two choices. Surrender yourself and your crew for trial, or we destroy your ship with you in it. Krenth's face appeared on screen. For the first time, he looked afraid. You're monsters. We were defending our territory. You threatened to eradicate 20,000 civilians, Chun said quietly. You promised to kill children. You are the monster War Master. You just never expected your victims to fight back. Krenth looked around his damaged bridge. His crew was wounded, dying. His proud fleet was debris floating in space. I surrender, he whispered. Chun nodded. Good. Now, here's what's going to happen. You're going to broadcast an order to every Vraxian ship in the galaxy. You're going to tell them what happened here. And you're going to tell them that the human fleet is coming to the Vraxian homeworld. Krenth's eyes widened. No, you can't. The homeworld has 6 billion Vraxians. You threatened to kill 20,000 humans, Chun replied. Why should your homeworld be safe when you threatened ours? The council chamber exploded with noise. Council members shouted, demanded, pleaded. This was too far. This was genocide. Chun ignored them all. She kept her eyes on Krenth. Make the broadcast, War Master. Tell your people that humanity is coming. And we're bringing every weapon we have. Krenth's hands shook as he activated the fleet-wide channel. His voice broken, he delivered the message. Every Vraxian in the galaxy heard. Their greatest warrior admit defeat and warn of the approaching human fleet. When he finished, Chun closed the channel. She turned to face the council directly. You let them threaten us. You stayed silent. Now you'll watch what happens when humans are threatened with extinction. We won't stop until the Vraxians can never threaten anyone again. The human fleet began to move. Not toward Earth, toward the Vraxian homeworld. Every ship, every weapon, heading for the heart of the Vraxian Empire. And the galaxy realized that humanity wasn't interested in victory. They wanted to send a message that would never be forgotten. The human fleet traveled for 3 days. Every moment was broadcast live to the entire galaxy. Council observers tracked their progress as they moved through Vraxian territory, heading straight for the homeworld of Vraxos Prime. On the council station, emergency meetings happened around the clock. The chamber was filled with shouting voices, desperate proposals, and growing panic. We must stop them, demanded the Quellan representative. This is madness. They're going to destroy an entire civilization. How? Asked the Zenthari ambassador. Send our flights against them? Did you not watch what they did to the Vraxians? They used weapons we didn't know existed. Tactics we've never seen. Who wants to be next? The council speaker tried to maintain order, but fear had taken hold. For centuries, the council had kept peace through diplomacy and tradition. But humans didn't care about either. Ambassador Chun received hundreds of messages. Some begged her to stop. Some threatened sanctions. Some offered mediation. She ignored them all. The human fleet kept moving. On Earth, something unexpected was happening. The global vote that had authorized military action now showed something different. A new referendum appeared on every human's device. Should humanity proceed with the attack on Vraxos Prime? The results came in quickly. Yes, 71% number, 29%, the number of humans voting against. The attack was growing. News channels on Earth showed protests. Humans marching with signs that said, "Don't become what we fear," and "Victory without genocide." But 71% still supported the fleet. They remembered the threat. They remembered that the Vraxians had promised to kill their children, and they wanted to ensure it could never happen again. On the second day of travel, the Vraxian homeworld went into panic. 6 billion Vraxians watched the approaching human fleet. Their military had already been devastated at Kepler 442. What remained was mostly defense platforms and aging ships. The Vraxian emperor, a 1,000-year-old warrior named Draxith, addressed his people. "We face extinction. These humans, these soft mammals we thought were weak, are coming to destroy us. We threatened them with total eradication, and now they will do the same to us. This is our fault. We were arrogant. We thought our military strength made us untouchable. We were wrong." His message went across the galaxy. It was the first time in 10,000 years that a Vraxian leader had admitted weakness. Council member species that the Vraxians had bullied for centuries watched with mixed feelings. Some felt satisfaction. Some felt horror. All of them wondered if humanity would actually follow through. On the third day, the human fleet stopped. They held position exactly 1 light year from Vraxos Prime, close enough to strike, far enough to give time. The council chamber filled with hope. Had humanity changed its mind? Ambassador Chun requested to address the council. Every species tuned in. This would determine the future of galactic civilization. Chun appeared on screen. Behind her, the command center was quiet. Human officers worked at their stations with calm efficiency. "People of the galaxy," Chun began. 3 days ago, we destroyed the Vraxian fleet at Kepler 442. We did this because they threatened us with total eradication. They promised to kill 20,000 civilians, including children. And the council did nothing. She paused, letting that sink in. We could have stopped after defeating their fleet. We could have declared victory and gone home. But we didn't. We came here to Vraxos Prime. Do you know why? The chamber waited in silence. Because defeating one fleet doesn't prevent the next threat. The Vraxians have bullied species for 10,000 years. They've made threats of extinction before. Sometimes they carried them out. And the council always stayed silent. Always looked away. Because it was easier than confronting them. Chun's expression hardened. Humanity will not accept a galaxy where the powerful can threaten the weak with extinction and face no consequences. We will not live in fear that someday some species will decide we don't deserve to exist. So we came here to change the rules. She gestured to someone off-screen. A new image appeared. It showed the human fleet surrounding Vraxos Prime. Weapons charged. Ready to fire. We have the power to destroy Vraxos Prime. Our weapons can sterilize the planet, kill every living thing, turn their homeworld into a dead rock floating in space. We could do it in less than an hour. The council members shifted uncomfortably. This was worse than they feared. But we won't, Chun continued, because that would make us exactly what we're trying to prevent. Humanity knows what genocide looks like. We've done it to ourselves. We've survived it. We've learned from it. And one thing we learned is that revenge creates more revenge. Violence breeds more violence. Hope flickered in the chamber. Maybe humanity would show mercy after all. However, Chun's voice became steel. We will not simply forgive and forget. The galaxy needs new rules, laws with real consequences. And the council is going to pass them. Today, a document appeared on every council member's screen. It was titled, The Terran Doctrine, Galactic Law Against Extinction Threats. The speaker read it aloud, his voice shaking slightly. Article 1. No species may threaten another species with extinction, genocide, or total eradication for any reason. Article 2. Any species that makes such a threat will face immediate military intervention by a joint council task force led by humanity. Article 3. Any species that carries out such a threat will face complete disarmament and occupation until rehabilitation is confirmed. Article 4. These laws supersede all existing treaties, territorial claims, and traditional rights. The chamber exploded. This is outrageous, shouted a representative. You're demanding that humans lead military interventions? You've been in space for 200 years. Chun's response was calm. Yes, because we're the only species that seems willing to fight against extinction threats. Every other species here stayed silent when the Vraxians threatened us. You'll stay silent next time too, unless you know there are real consequences. You can't force the council to pass laws at gunpoint, another delegate argued. Can't we? Chun gestured to the display showing the human fleet. We have 6 billion Vraxians hostage. We have demonstrated weapons that terrify your military experts. We have shown we're willing to fight. Are you willing to let Vraxos Prime die to prove a principle? The Yelton speaker understood the trap immediately. If the council refused, humanity might actually attack Vraxos Prime. If they agreed, they gave humanity enormous power over galactic affairs. This is blackmail, the speaker said quietly. No, Chun replied. This is the price of your silence. You let the Vraxians threaten extinction for 10,000 years. You never stopped them. Now someone else has to do it, and we're making sure it never happens again. A new voice entered the conversation. Emperor Draxith himself appeared on the screens. The ancient Vraxian looked diminished, defeated. Council members, he spoke slowly. I am the Emperor of the Vraxian Empire. I have ruled for 1,000 years. I have conquered 20 systems and destroyed 7 species. I have made threats of extinction 34 times during my reign, and the council never stopped me, never even tried. He paused, seeming to age before their eyes. The humans are right. Our threats were wrong. Our arrogance was wrong. We believed strength gave us the right to threaten the weak. The humans have shown us what real strength looks like. It's not just the power to destroy. It's the wisdom to know when not to. Draxith turned to face Chun directly. Ambassador Chun, I speak for the Vraxian Empire. We surrender, unconditionally. We will accept any terms you demand: disarmament, reparations, trials for our war crimes. Anything. Just spare our homeworld. Chun studied him for a long moment. Emperor Draxith, the Vraxian Empire will be dissolved. Your military will be reduced to defense forces only. You will pay reparations to every species you have threatened. Your leaders, including yourself, will stand trial for crimes against galactic peace. And most importantly, you will support the Terran doctrine and help us enforce it across the galaxy." "Agreed," Graxith said immediately. "All of it. I will sign any document. Make any concession. Just please spare my people." The council watched this exchange in stunned silence. The mighty Vraxian Empire, brought to its knees without a shot being fired at their homeworld. Sean turned back to the council. "You have 1 hour to vote on the Terran doctrine. If it passes unanimously, the human fleet will withdraw from Vraxian space. If even one species votes against it, we will interpret that as support for extinction threats, and we will respond accordingly." The threat was clear. Vote yes, or face the same treatment as the Vraxians. The speaker called for a recess. Council members rushed to contact their homeworlds. The debate was furious. Some species were outraged at being forced into this position. Others were relieved that someone was finally standing up to bullies like the Vraxians. 57 minutes later, the council reconvened. "The vote on the Terran doctrine," the speaker announced. He looked around the chamber at the 200-member species. "All in favor?" Every single hand, tentacle, pseudopod, and appendage went up. "The Terran doctrine is now galactic law," the speaker declared. "By unanimous vote." Chun nodded. "Thank you. The human fleet will withdraw immediately. But understand this. We meant every word. If any species threatens extinction again, we will respond. We don't want to be the galaxy's police. We don't want to fight. But we will do both if necessary." She closed her transmission. The human fleet began to move away from Vraxos Prime. On Earth, the news was met with mixed emotions. Some humans celebrated the victory. Others were disturbed by the methods. Debates raged about whether humanity had done the right thing. But across the galaxy, something had changed forever. Species that had been threatened by the Vraxians for centuries felt safe for the first time. Smaller civilizations realized they now had protection. And every military power understood that extinction threats would no longer be tolerated. A council had been forced to act. But deep down, many members were grateful. Someone had finally stood up to the bullies. Even if the methods were harsh, the result was a galaxy where extinction threats were no longer acceptable. Humanity had forced the galaxy to be better. At gunpoint, yes, but better nonetheless. 6 months had passed since the confrontation at Vraxos Prime. The galaxy was still adjusting to its new reality. Ambassador Sarah. Chun stood in front of the council for what would be her final address. She had requested this session to explain what humanity had done and why. The chamber was full. Every species wanted to hear what she would say. Some came out of respect, some out of fear, some out of curiosity about the species that had changed galactic law in less than a week. Chun looked older now. The weight of what had happened showed in her eyes. But her voice was steady as she began to speak. 6 months ago, War Master Krenth threatened humanity with total eradication. He promised to kill 20,000 of our people. And this council stayed silent. Today, I want to explain why humanity responded the way we did. She gestured, and a holographic image appeared. It showed Earth from space, beautiful and blue. This is our homeworld. To you, it might look peaceful, but humanity's history is written in blood. For thousands of years, we fought each other. We killed each other. We tried to destroy each other. The hologram changed. Images appeared of human history, ancient wars, medieval battles, modern conflicts. We invented new ways to kill, better weapons, more efficient methods of destruction. We built bombs that could destroy cities. We created diseases that could kill millions. We organized genocides where we murdered our own people for being different. The council members, who had never studied human history, watched in horror. The images showed the worst of what humans had done to each other. We killed over 100 million of our own people in just 1 century, Chan continued. 100 million. That's more than the entire population of some species in this council. We did that to ourselves. She paused, letting the weight of those numbers sink in. But we survived. And we learned. We learned that extinction threats are never acceptable. We learned that standing by while others are threatened makes you complicit. We learned that peace requires strength, and strength requires the will to use it. The hologram changed again. Now it showed monuments and museums from Earth, places built to remember the horrors. These are our reminders. We built them so we would never forget what we're capable of. We teach every human child about our genocides, not to make them feel guilty, but to make them understand, to make them remember why we can never let it happen again. Chun's voice grew stronger. When War Master Krenth threatened us, it wasn't just a threat to 20,000 people. To humanity, it was a threat to our entire species. Because we know how extinction begins. It starts with one threat that goes unanswered, then another, until someone decides to actually do it. She looked around the chamber, making eye contact with different representatives. You want to know why we responded so violently? Because we've been on both sides of genocide. We've been the victims and the perpetrators. We know what it looks like from every angle. And we swore, as a species, that we would never let it happen again. To anyone. A Xanthari representative raised a glowing appendage. But Ambassador, you threatened an entire planet. 6 billion Vraxians. How is that different from what Krenth threatened? Chun nodded. It's different because we didn't do it. We could have. We had the power. We had the justification. The Vraxians had threatened us first. But we stopped. Because the goal wasn't revenge. It was prevention. She pulled up the Terran doctrine on the displays. This law does 3 things. First, it makes extinction threats illegal. Second, it promises intervention if threats are made. Third, it establishes consequences if threats are carried out. These aren't revolutionary ideas. They're basic civilization. But somehow, the galaxy never had them. The council speaker spoke up. You forced us to pass that law. We voted under duress, with your fleet threatening a populated world. Yes, Sean admitted simply. We did, because asking nicely doesn't work. We asked you to help us when the Vraxians made their threat. You stayed silent. We asked you to intervene when they assembled their fleet. You did nothing. We asked you to support us after we defended ourselves. Still nothing. So we forced you to act. She spread her hands. I won't apologize for that. The galaxy needed this law. Species needed protection from extinction threats. And since no one else would create that protection, we did. A small, insectoid delegate from a minor species stood up. His species had been bullied by the Vraxians for centuries. Ambassador Chun, he said quietly, I want to thank you. My people have lived in fear for 300 years. The Vraxians threatened us constantly, took our resources, killed our people, and we had no one to turn to. Now we have protection. The Terran doctrine gives us hope. Other small species around the chamber nodded in agreement. Chun saw tears in some of their eyes. That's why we did it, Chun said softly. Not for glory, not for power, but because someone had to stand up to the bullies. Someone had to say that extinction threats are unacceptable. And when we looked around the galaxy, we didn't see anyone else willing to do it. Emperor Draxith appeared on one of the screens. He was no longer emperor now, just Draxith, a Vraxian on trial for war crimes. Ambassador Chun, he said, I have spent 6 months thinking about what happened. about what Pi people did, about what you did in response. And I understand now. He looked directly at her. You humans are terrifying. Not because of your weapons, not because of your tactics, but because you remember. Every species in the galaxy tries to forget their dark past. They bury it, pretend it didn't happen. But humans remember everything. You build museums to your failures. You teach your children about your mistakes. You use your past as a weapon to ensure a better future. Draxith's ancient face showed something like respect. That's what made you so effective. When I threatened you, I thought you would react like other species. Plead, negotiate, submit. But you reacted like a species that had already survived extinction threats before. Because you had. From yourselves. Chun acknowledged his words with a small nod. Former Emperor Draxith, your people will recover. The disarmament is temporary. The trials will bring justice. The reparations will help those you've hurt. But the shame of what you did will last forever. Use it. Learn from it. Become better. She turned back to the full council. I want to show you something else. The hologram changed to show a feed from Earth. It showed protests. Angry crowds of humans. These are humans who opposed what we did. Millions of them. They think we went too far. They think we became the monsters we fought against. And you know what? They might be right. The council looked surprised. Chun was admitting doubt. We made hard choices. We used terrible weapons. We threatened 6 billion lives. These things will haunt us. Humans will debate for generations whether we did the right thing. Our history books will argue about it. Our philosophers will question it. And that's good, she smiled sadly, because a species that doesn't question its own actions is a species that will eventually commit atrocities. We question everything we do. We doubt ourselves constantly. It's not a weakness. It's how we stay human. Chun pulled up one final image. It showed the 12 battleships, the ones named after genocides. These ships will never fire another shot. We're decommissioning them, turning them into museums. Each one will orbit a different council world. Inside, we'll tell the story of the genocide it's named after. Not to threaten anyone, but to remind everyone, including ourselves, of what we're capable of when we forget to be civilized. The council members looked at each other. This was unexpected. Humanity was giving up its most powerful weapons? We don't want to be the galaxy's military, Chun explained. We don't want to rule through fear. But we will protect the innocent. We will stop extinction threats. And we will enforce the Terran doctrine. Not because we want power, but because it needs to be done. She straightened her shoulders. This is my final address to the council. I'm retiring from diplomatic service. I'm too tired. What happened at Kepler 442 and Vraxos Prime took everything I had. But before I go, I want to leave you with this. Chun's voice became intense, passionate. Humanity didn't ask to be the species that enforces protection laws. We didn't want this responsibility. But when we looked around the galaxy and saw extinction threats being ignored, we couldn't stay silent. Because we know where silence leads. She looked at each council member in turn. Never again. That's what we learned from our darkest days. Never again will we stand by while innocents are threatened. Never again will we let bullies terrorize the weak. Never again will we allow extinction threats to go unanswered. And if that makes us the galaxy's guardians, then so be it. Chun gathered her documents. The Terran doctrine is now law. Humanity will honor it and enforce it. We hope others will too. We hope the galaxy has learned that peace requires more than treaties and words. It requires the will to act when those treaties are broken and those words become threats. She began to leave, then paused at the chamber door. One last thing. Some of you call us monsters for what we did. Some call us heroes. We're neither. We're just a species that survived by learning from our worst mistakes. And we're trying to help the galaxy avoid making those same mistakes. Judge us however you want. History will make its own judgment. Sarah Chun left the council chamber for the last time. Behind her, the council sat in silence. What could they say? Humanity had forced them to be better, had made them create laws they should have created centuries ago, had shown them that protection requires strength, and strength requires courage. In the months and years that followed, the galaxy changed. Smaller species found their voices. Bullies found they could no longer threaten with impunity. The Terran doctrine was tested several times, and each time, humanity and their allies intervened to stop extinction threats. Humanity didn't become conquerors. They didn't build an empire. They simply did what they promised. They protected those who couldn't protect themselves. And across the galaxy, species learned a new truth. Humans were slow to anger. They preferred peace. They valued life. But if you threatened them with extinction, if you tried to eradicate them, they would respond with the full force of a species that had survived ice ages. Plagues, world wars, and their own worst nature. They had learned from their dark history. And they used those lessons to ensure no species, human or alien, would ever face extinction threats again. The council had asked, "Why you never threaten humans?" Now the galaxy knew the answer. Because humans remember everything.